A salary is the drug they give you when they want you to forget about your dreams, because it's very easy to stay in that world where somebody is mitigating your risk. You just have to perform certain tasks, do them well for a third of your day, and they will feed you a salary.
Tada, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Africa.
Listen, me and Tada go back. We go back like bucket seats, right?
That's your Bahamian coming out now. You could relax. You could be a Bahamian on this episode.
All right, so Tada is a recording artist, writer, philanthropist, and politician. Everything, a political activist. Let me not say politician because politicians mean something different, right?
Well, I'm a politician. I think when we think about the word politics, we get confused with partisan politics. But politics is just about governance and, leading. When you get the party side of it and all the corruption and what they call the dirty game that people have made it into, underlying politics is not a bad word.
A post came across my WhatsApp status, and I was just taken aback by the statement. Great work on writing the caption. It stated that a young girl was raped 3 times.
Actually, no, they didn't say raped at all in the article.
No, 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 no. This is your
Oh,
statement.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah,
okay,
this is your statement. That's why I want to get to the article. Your statement created this what
right.
moment, and it made people stop. But when I read the article, it was like, okay. The statement said that a young girl was raped 3 times, and the gentleman was given 9 months
2 year
and
sentence.
a 2-year sentence, and was asked to go and get take up vocational activities after. However, in the newspaper article, because someone had asked me after I forwarded them the information, I said, "Do
Hmm.
you have the article for this?" So I reached out, got the article, and the article was like a lackluster thing. It
It's
basically,
short. Read it. Read it. It's short. Let's go. Let's put this down on the
yeah,
record. The
and
world
that
has
is
to know what's going
important.
on.
It is very short, but when you read it, it says that the young lady, it says that a teenager, they make it known that she was a teenager. And when you hear the word teenager, you assume 15, 16, 17.
Right.
So they didn't say pubescent, which would then make you understand that this child is underage. They said a teenager. And I think that that was deliberate. Again, working in working in journalism and entertainment for so long, you start to understand how to use words to get people to react a certain way or not to react, right? So it says
Right.
this teenager met with a man that she met on Facebook, and they had unlawful sex. 3 times they had unlawful sex. Now, to anybody reading that, and I had this, I wrote this statement about a couple of days ago. Anybody reading that, they would assume that this teenager went out looking for man. However, it's not until the end that you find out that this teenager is 13.
A
But by
child.
this
A
time,
little girl.
but by this time, you've already made up in your mind based on the way that the writer is writing. She just one fast little girl trying to find man. And they said unlawful sex because she's underage, right?
Right.
Now, this young lady, the gentleman was charged for 2 years and was told to get to take up some type of vocational trade.
Because
And
he pled guilty, he got a lesser sentence of 2 years.
in that same feed, a woman, a man broke into her house and raped her. It's an old woman now, raped her, not old, but I mean,
Adult. Yes.
of age, right?
Right.
And the gentleman got 15 years.
Wow.
And he too pleaded guilty.
This is eye opening. You definitely have to chat with me after this because I need to update my speech to include all of this at the
So
demonstration.
my question is, and this is in the same newspaper. If you look in the feed, you see related articles.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I couldn't understand why unlawful sex, pleading guilty would get you 2 years, and raping a person of age would get you 15.
All right, so let's break this down and legalese legal language in the Bahamas version of legal language. So, like you said, unlawful sexual intercourse happened between a man and a child, and the perpetrator, and multiple times at that, the perpetrator got 2 year sentence. A woman was raped, and the perpetrator got a 15-year sentence. An adult woman. Okay, let's break this down. In the Bahamas, statutory rape is called statutory rape, and when the child, that's for children who are 14 years, between 14 and 16 years old. The age of consent for sex is 16 years old. If a child is 13 years or younger, it is called unlawful sexual intercourse. But somehow, though, statutory rape sounds more violent than something that you refer to as sexual intercourse, because how can a child have intercourse that they cannot even legally consent to? So no, the language needs to be corrected immediately. So we pretty up raping children in the Bahamas. We pretty it up and make it sound okay. Meanwhile, the older you get, the more we call it statutory rape, and then once you're an adult, we call it rape. So clearly there is some evil force at play here in this country which seeks to target and tear down and destroy and demean children. And we are not going to stand for it any longer.
I want you to read your post that you sent out, and then I will read the headline of the article that was in the R News post.
So, just let me scroll back. I sent out a post. It said, "It's time. Enough is enough, Bahamas. Please share and invite all your family and friends to join us at Rawson Square for the Tada Takeover Peaceful Protest and Revolution event. A man raped a little girl 3 times and received a 2 year sentence."
So the article itself says 2 year sentence for a man who had sex with teen he met on Facebook.
I catch your drift. I
So
catch your drift.
that's like, oh, this guy looking for man. Then when you get into it, it says a man who had sex with a 13-year-old girl that he had met on Facebook had been jailed for 2 years.
But you realize why they keep saying who we met on Facebook. You realize the point of that, right?
Yeah, I understand that, but
So if you met a young girl on Facebook, first of all, you didn't see her face to know she was a young girl, right? She might have been acting as though she was an older girl. Let's just say, hypothetically. So you spoke to this person who might have, assume was an older girl, or if you asked them their age and she admitted it, who knows? At the end of the day, you keep making this statement. She was out here looking for man, right?
because you said I could talk Bahamianese, right?
That is exactly how Bahamians look at statutory rape, which again constitutes a minor of the age 14 to 16 who allows sex to happen even though legally they cannot by law consent to sex with an adult. So when Bahamians automatically look at these 14, 15, 16-year-old girls claiming that they've been raped or whatever the case might be, unfortunately, the empathy is not there for a number of Bahamians who look at them and say, well, they going after man, they fast. At the end of the day, in the Bahamas, the law says 18 and under is a child, okay? When a Marco's missing child alert, similar to the Amber Alert system, goes out, they go out for children. It doesn't matter if you're 2 years old or if you're 17-year-old, you are still a child. Okay? We don't discriminate on what a child is in this country. But clearly, the powers that be, successive administrations, the PLP and the FNM, have some sort of interest in perpetuating things and laws and language and policies that do not benefit the protection of our children. And we have to ask ourselves why and for how long have we tolerated and for how much longer will we tolerate it?
I'm just, I and I feel that the journalism quality in the Bahamas has much to be desired, because there was no the story was very here, what, when, why, but it didn't really give any details or any insight as to what happened. It talked about the gentleman specifically. So I in reading this and understanding language again, it feels like it's a piece for the gentleman, saying that he's wrong. The way if you read the piece, it almost feels like you want to have empathy for the gentleman
Right.
because
It's in his favor. It's leaning
right,
towards like his lawyer literally wrote this for them to publish or something like that.
yeah,
See, what in my 15 years where I pretty much put music production on the back burner to focus in 2009 when I heard a 5-month-old baby girl was raped in this country and died. I put music and film production on hold and came home and said I will become a child protection activist and advocate. When that happened, I realized throughout the course of time that yes, the legal system, yes, the judicial system were all complicit in the way that we frame our laws. So that means Parliament is also complicit. Um, and when you look at the language, it's meant to downplay or water down the atrocities that are happening to children in this country. Again, just for the reminder, children under the age of 13, it doesn't matter how old they are. They could be 2 years old. They could be that 5-month old that was reported in 2009 as having been raped. You will not see the word rape in that report. The report will say a man had unlawful sexual intercourse and was charged or prosecuted. And we've actually done interviews saying, call it what it is, it's rape. This is just in recent years, I believe, maybe 1 or 2 years ago, we challenge in the media because we don't go to the legislators or to the judiciary and challenge them. We go directly to the media because we are the government. We have a say on what happens. So when we go to the media, we make a statement. They turn around and say, well, the law says that it's this. You can't say it's rape if it's this and that and that. And this is how the law defines it. We don't give a rat's tail about how the law defines it. You need to fix it. That's how we've been operating as child protection advocates in the Bahamas. And it's just now to the point where we've actually caught the Minister of National Security, Member of Parliament for Freetown, in a lie. And not just a lie, in a blatant, purposeful lie intended to mislead the Bahamian people and the Bahamian public. And this was 2 years ago.
you now have a campaign or a protest happening on June, what would that be? June 24th? No,
June 25th, Tuesday.
right, Tuesday, June 25th in Nassau, Bahamas. Tell us what the objective is of this particular protest and what your ultimate goals are as a result of the protest. Like, what do you want to achieve from this protest?
Well, we want the justice or magistrate, Justice Andrew Forbes, needs to be fired for allowing that sentence to stand. And we also want the prosecutor Ashley Carroll needs to be fired for recommending that sentence of 2 years, along with. So, yeah, they need to be fired immediately. That is the basis of the demonstration happening, and it's called Tada Takeover Tuesday.
So you want to take over. You are demanding that these people be removed from their position, and not only removed but fired. The overall objective of this is, or goals, is to call for the firing or the removal of these people from public service. Once that's done, how will that impact the system?
It
What,
will be a domino effect. So they're going to now come to us, and every time we say, look, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be corrected, and we have to also do it retroactively. So for those people, oh, so also not just getting them fired, we also want this case, because you normally have within 21 days to contest a ruling, to change the ruling from that 2 years to something much more substantial. We are still within that 21-day window, so we are going to demand that that man get a life sentence, because rape of a woman carries up to a life sentence in the Bahamas. So rape of a child or a baby or a little boy should carry a life sentence. Because why? Those children, even those adult women, carry a life sentence when they are sexually assaulted, when they are raped. That's what's going to happen. This 2 years is going to turn into a life sentence.
so my question then, well, I mean, it doesn't even matter if anybody's had an opportunity to speak to a young lady. The thing is, if the gentleman saw that the young lady was indeed pubescent, that in itself should have stopped him from even making any further, whether she was coming on him or not. That should have made it. That should have stopped him in his tracks. Say, "Hey, this ain't right."
Right. No, you know what a 13-year-old looks like. regardless of what their weight or how much weave they might have in or makeup or lashes they put on. You know what a 13-year-old looks like. So at very most, she might have looked 16, which is still not appropriate. So at the end of the day, my advice to any adult person, man, woman, or other, who seeks to have sex, before you have sex with anyone that looks suspect, or even if they don't, just to make sure, do like you doing at a club and ask for ID, bro. Ask for a driver's license or a passport or something like birth certificate, not knowing something that they could go and forge. Simple.
A couple points in my life, I had to ask people for ID because it's like, what?
But good for you. Good for you.
It's like, no, 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 you're not gonna trick me.
Shame the devil.
Because ain't nobody, mommy coming knocking on my door.
The devil is a liar.
um, so, yeah, I mean, my also question is, has anybody had an opportunity to speak to the young lady or the parents of the young lady in question and gotten their side, not necessarily gotten their side of the story, but um, spoken about how this is affecting that person?
So the responsibility, once a police report is filed, is on the state. So they have social services who have representatives that would look into the matter. So before it even gets to trial, that's typically the process that it goes through. You do have nonprofit organizations that are separate and apart from any government agencies, such as the Bahamas Crisis Center, such as Links, such as FOAM, Families of All Murder Victims, such as Lend a Hand Bahamas. All of these organizations have assisted people in crisis. So let's say, for instance, a family member came to one of those organizations and said, I believe that my child has been raped by an adult man. She told me this. I need assistance with going through the process. The first step they would do is take them to the police station, and then the police station would say, make social services aware, and that's how the process would work. So, because of the vast number of cases that we've seen of minors being raped, molested, sexually assaulted, we as our man, I founded Rise Bahamas in 2014, 10 years ago. We don't deal typically with survivors or victims of abuse. We advocate more from a stance of trying to get the legal side of it sorted out, trying to ensure that there are programs and funding and things in place so that the organizations I call, they do a lot of interventions at the home front and at the site of where these atrocities happen. If I were to take that on as an organization or an individual, that would trigger me because I'm also a survivor of childhood sexual assault by my uncle Richard Burroughs, who's my father's youngest brother, when I was 5 years old. So I can't be seeing children go through the stuff that I went through and had determined that I would take to my grave until I heard about that 5-month-old baby girl that got raped in 2009. I came forward and said, I am also a survivor of childhood sexual abuse.
It seems like there's a stigma attached, and this is the reason a lot of people don't come forward when it comes to sexual assault or sexual abuse. The other thing is that for some reason, like the idea of calling it unlawful sex softens the bestiality of it all,
For 15 years, Africa Allah, I have played diplomat, okay? I have played rationale and reason and appealing to the sensibilities of the powers that be. That is, the FNM and the PLP, successive administrations, the only two political parties that have ever governed this country. I have appealed to them. I have sat in parliament for a few years to understand how they operate. I have protested. I have petitioned. I have demonstrated. I have gone and done radio interviews. So I have to applaud the other nonprofit organizations that continue to do the work, that continue to stand with us, that continue to speak with us. The people who wrote letters to the editor, the people who commented on Facebook, even the people that just simply liked or shared or invited their friends to one of our events on our pages. Rise Bahamas, Bahamas Against Sexual Violence and Child Abuse, Advocacy Advisors, Active Liberal League, and now my group of independent candidates, Hummingbirds United. I have tried everything in my human power to get the Bahamas government and powers that be and people with funding and resources and those who made the laws and those who prosecuted and brought justice to do so in favor of child protection. And now I'm to the point where I've caught someone in a very high position in a major lie. And not only is the judge and the prosecutor on this case for the man getting a 2-year sentence going to be fired, but this person is as well.
They're going to be fired for being caught in a lie. What exactly was the lie?
I don't want to spill the beans. You have to see the dominoes fall first because I don't want to make predictions on air.
Okay,
Like I
okay.
got you.
So check this out. According to RAIN, women between the ages of 16 and 19 are four times more likely to be victims of rape or sexual assault or attempted rape than the general population. Women between the ages of 18 and 24 who are college students are three times more likely to experience sexual violence than women in general. So there's a pattern, and this is in the US. This is not in the Caribbean. I'm sure that the number is higher. I
Let me
spoke
hold on. I just watched this beautiful documentary called Girls Rising or Girl Rising. It's from
mhm.
2013, the year before we started Rise Bahamas. Um, their statistics said 50% of all the sexual assaults in the world, planet Earth, happen to girls under the age of 15. Half of them. Half of the atrocities happen to children, girls, girl children.
And do you know that 8 out of 10 Black women before the age of 18 will suffer some type of sexual abuse or molestation in their lifetime? 8 out of 10. And this was the stats in the 1990s. Um, as an adult, I've come across so many women that are survivors of childhood abuse, and their families knew.
Yeah.
Because and what made it even worse is their the elders in their family brushed it off and said that that was a part of transitioning
Initiation.
into womanhood. Like
Well,
that.
my kind of asked must see be a part of y'all transitioning into jail.
so so and these are elders, and I grew up in Harlem. So these are elders in Harlem when because I was like I don't know, things happened to me as a child, and I was one of them people. At first I was like, hey, y'all ain't see this, because I guess when I had an opportunity to not to read and to understand that there were laws for these things, and then having watched these TV shows and understanding that hey, people go to jail for this, I was perplexed as to why when I told an elder in the family that something happened, they would tell me that I was lying or making up stories, or they would just push it to the side.
One of the stories, you might be familiar with this. I won't say who told me, but I remember a story that a very dear friend of mine who I love, who's also in entertainment like us, she told me a story. It wasn't even rape, but it's something that girls and women in the Bahamas face every single day. When I wasn't driving, if I didn't have a car and I caught a bus, or if I had to walk from place to place, even from a very young age, we've interviewed some girls as young as 5 years old saying they've been sexually harassed on the street. They've been called out. They've been people trying to speak to them, get their attention. I remember someone telling me a story that just stuck with me, and I've shared it many times in my advocacy work for child protection in the Bahamas. So in the Bahamas, we're very cordial people. We normally are taught to say hello and goodbye whenever you enter a room, correct?
Right.
So that's just the standard. We're used to it. But not everybody's always in a good mood, and nobody should feel entitled to your hello or your good afternoon, good morning. This young girl was 16 years old, wearing her school uniform now, mind you. So this man who walked past her and said hello knew that she was a child, okay, if she was wearing a school uniform. And when I tell the story, I say that man came back to her and said, "Excuse me, you didn't hear me say hello to you? You didn't hear me say hello to you?" And he punched her and beat her up. And from what I recall, that young girl went back home and told her mother what happened. And I believed her mother might have been a police officer. And the most heartbreaking part of this entire story is when she told her mother asked her, "Well, why didn't you reply and say hello back to the man?" That's all that I remember. But that's the part that hurt my heart. Children are allowed to have feelings. Children are allowed to have space and be entitled to their own. You don't have to touch, you should not touch anyone, but particularly a child. You don't have to speak to, if I see a stranger and they're a child, and they're with their parent, I address the parent first. And if I want to speak to the child, I ask the parent's permission most times.
Would you
So
be?
we are not entitled. You are not entitled to our time, our conversation, none of it.
But y'all ain't in set, so you don't. You're not obligated. Like,
And then there was even this thing back in the day. I don't know why they just self loathe so much in the Bahamas. I guess, as people who survived the transatlantic slave trade, which was the biggest atrocity in terms of enslavement of people in our lifetimes, in generations and centuries, we just had some sort of residual thing like that we weren't good enough. So I remember feeling very upset. My family was very supportive when I decided to become a recording artist. But that I know that a lot of people would say, "What? You want to be a singer? You want to be a movie star? You want to be this? You want to be that?" That they thought was just unattainable. They would say, "Well, who you think you is anyway? Who you think you is?"
isn't that amazing? That's an amazing. That's amazing that people don't see the value or the potential in a person, and it's not just in entertainment. It's just whatever they aspire to be more than what everybody else in their circle is. If you say you aspire to be the prime minister, you aspire to be whatever, a doctor or whatever, they're gonna act if nobody else in that community has gone past a certain level, they feel that those things are unattainable. So that's just across the board in the African diaspora. Like there's this idea that if the biggest person in your village hasn't done it, then you're not capable of doing it.
Absolutely, which is absolute hogwash for the record. And whenever I speak about the African slave trade, I remember my mother in particular. She was a darker skinned Bahamian person than my father was. He was a little brown skin, and she would always try to show us movies like Mandela and Queen and Roots, Alex Haley's movies about his grandparents and great grandparents. And it just resonated with me so much because colorism is really vibrant in the Bahamas and I'm sure other places as well. But I always grew up thinking like, I want to be like, she also showed us this movie called Sarafina about the young children in South Africa who they were only in high school, but they stood up to the apartheid and they fought for their rights. And I always said when I was a kid, I'm going to be like that. From when I was a little kid and saw these movies, I will always fight for justice and rights and to protect people who need to be protected because everyone deserves to be protected. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from or what you have or what you don't have. That doesn't matter. Or it shouldn't. But somehow in this world, we've allowed it just to be overrun with racism, homophobia, and if you have a different religion, I don't like you. And no, 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 no. We got to get it together. And in honor to Sarafina, I always sing a little piece of that song that I always remembered. I'm going to do a little remix because it says, "Freedom is coming tomorrow." But I'm going to say something else. And it goes a little bit like this: "Freedom is coming tomorrow. Get ready, mama, get ready, freedom. Freedom is coming tomorrow." And then I'm gonna remix it because our demonstration is when? Day after tomorrow. So let me just do it a little bit like this. And you could do a little beatbox or a little clap your hand or snip your fingers to help me out. 1, 2, 3, and freedom is coming day after tomorrow. Get ready, mama, get ready, freedom. Freedom is coming day after tomorrow. Yeah.
I love the I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So we've talked about the issues at hand, talked about some of the improprieties across the globe in regards to the numbers and statistics of women suffering from these
And girls, apparently.
predominantly girls.
Yeah.
Tell us about the hummingbirds. What is the significance of the hummingbird and the hummingbirds coalition that you have?
Right. So the Hummingbirds United is a league of extraordinary independent candidates I'm vetting myself, and it's really just my endorsement of them and me making a commitment to mentor them and guide them through the process of running as an independent, which I did for the first time 7 years ago in 2017. There was this African proverb, and I first heard about it from Donna Nichols, who's one of my ancestors now. She was my counselor. She was the second in command at the Bahamas Crisis Center. And she showed us this story that was shown through an animation that you can find online with an African woman that was a Nobel Peace Prize winner. So this Nobel Peace Prize winner tells this story. There's an old African proverb about a beautiful forest that was inhabited by a number of different species of animals, tons of different plants, vegetation, gorgeous, lush, beautiful home to them. And one day the forest catches fire and the animals stand together on the sidelines watching in disbelief. So suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, the elephant sees his hummingbird buzzing back and forth, and the elephant says, "Hey, hey, 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 hummingbird, what's going on?" So Hummingbird, she stops and she says, "Well, I'm taking drops of water from the ocean to put on the fire." And he looks at her and says, "Wait, you're too small. You're gonna get burnt up, and that's not gonna make any difference anyway." So she's a Bahamian hummingbird, you see. She put her little wing in a kimber, looked down at his big old trunk and said, "Well, I'm doing the best I can," and she kept on buzzing back and forth. That is the impact. That is the story of the hummingbird. And I am the hummingbird, not just of the Bahamas, but of the universe. We are going to make sure that the world knows that if you really do the best you can, if you do unto others the way that you want them to do unto you, if you're empathetic, if you have a heart, even if you care about the environment, if you care about other beings, pets and animals, if you understand that it's all about balance, and if you live to preserve the life and the quality of life that we have, you can do things far beyond you've ever imagined.
That is amazing. So the hummingbirds are doing the best they can to bring balance to our community and society. Is that the overall objective?
That's the overall objective. But to begin to do that, we have to look at those who are in quotation the least among us first. Those who are downtrodden, those who are discriminated against, those who don't have the financial means, those who don't have the education, those who we've thrown aside, those from other countries who have migrated to our countries, the refugees, and all wars will come to an end. In the name of Jesus and company, the universe, or whoever you talk to and deal with, it's going to happen. I'm not even asking you. I'm telling you. We just have to work, and we have to work hard, because this mission is not for the faint of heart.
The hummingbirds, they will be on the list for election in the next election cycle.
Yes, the Bahamas general election is slated to happen anytime before, because there can be an early snap election, anytime before September 2026. I predict that there will be a handful of by elections called when sitting members of parliament who are now before the courts and charged with crimes are convicted of those crimes. Their seats will become vacant, and hummingbirds will win those seats.
So I'm assuming that you're starting your campaign as of 2024, 2025.
The campaign started when that 87% of increase in child abuse reported cases in April. That's when Hummingbirds United was launched and began. So we're just continuing with the momentum, and they're supporting me as the orchestrator for the Hummingbirds with the demonstration for child protection day after tomorrow on July, Tuesday, June 25th.
Right.
So that would be the starting point when people will begin to see the dominoes fall, and we will begin to gain the trust and the hopes of the people to guide them and lead them towards their own governance. We believe in independence and autonomy. We believe that Bahamians have a heart towards love, and that's what's going to conquer any evil that might exist in the world. So I have 100% confidence that my people are some of the most loving and kind in the world. And like I said before, we're going to lead the way. So yeah, just look out for it. Mark my words.
Does that mean that you've given up 100% on music and entertainment?
I'm actually going to be juggling because I realize that I can multitask like many women who have children can. I don't have children, but all the children of the world I regard as mine, their safety and their well being. So I will be making movies. I will be doing music. I will be continuing to write more theme songs for Disney. They will come to me and want to do animation. They will come to me and want to do feature films. So once they pay in a good price, because I don't come cheap, we could work.
So we're back in music. We're gonna get some type of music from Tada. Uh,
Music, film, everything.
Film. Tell us a little bit about some of your film endeavors, and have you worked on films prior?
Well, I've been in the music industry for 27 years. I started at 17, and then at 19, I won the hip hop category of the John Lennon Songwriting Contest and was featured in the Source magazine. I also won multiple Caribbean Gospel Music Marlin Awards, and I have done about 40 jingle productions in the Bahamas when I did that as a career. I began film work more recently in 2006. The first film I worked on was Casino Royale 007 movie. I worked as an office production assistant on that. Then I did work in casting with a Bahamian film called Windjammers. I did work in art department with the TV show Top Chef. I've worked as a music supervisor, music consultant. I've also had songs on soundtrack. So I'm now endeavoring to uh, produce my biographical story. It's called Becoming Tada, and it's covering in this first part of the series my early childhood and music career into advocacy, and the subsequent uh, parts of the series will cover advocacy and then politics and then revolution and everything else that's going to follow.
Well, we look forward to that. We look forward to supporting Tada and the Hummingbirds, the Bahamian advocate doing the best she can to make the world safer for our children. Any
I'll leave you with a song because you sound like you Jones and I have more music. I'm gonna do an old one that helped to win over and give hope to Bahamian people 20 years ago when I wrote it in 2004. I'll sing the chorus. It's called Footprints in the Sand. And it's a shout out to my big brother. I always wanted a big brother, Jesus. I've lived my life to try to emulate him as much as I could, even though I don't prescribe to any religious beliefs. So, yeah. Look at the footprints in the sand. You think you walk alone, but he's holding your hand. Never let go, and you'll still stand. You'll still stand. You'll still stand. Look at the sign and the wonder he bring. The sun always rise in the early morning. Times might be rough, but I shall sing. I shall sing, and I shall sing till the sunrise. Early in the morning time, every breath within me's gonna bring new life. Nobody knows me better than my brother Jesus Christ. Yeah. Now you can find that on iTunes, Amazon, everywhere music is sold. Check it out.
All right, there you go. It's the one and only Africa Alama right here on Discover Music Channel by Playmaster today.